And we are recording with Miss Kristi Wells and Mr. Basil Baz. And you've both been on here before, separately and together. And I just did a show before this about about prepper food and kind of the we kept saying it's a depressing conversation that neither of us want to have, but at a certain point you need to have it. And I feel like that also applies to this one. So we've talking about kind of the darkest of the dark with both of you is child sex trafficking, which truly is innermost circle of Dante's Inferno of hellfire. And Kristi with the Safe House Project, and Baz, of course, with the with ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. I have all the links from our. Let me make sure. Just I have all the links from our last time we did this. Let's see. The test I am on watch.org, recovery of children, safehouseproject .org. We have all of those in there. But when I originally wanted to do this was, right after the not revelations, but I guess verification, validation of an Epstein client list, and that this does go to the highest levels, and that this isn't a conspiracy, and that these are actual children being used as pawns for power. So, Miss Wells, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Kristi Wells, and I have the honor of being the CEO and co-founder of Safe House Project.
And Mr. Basil Bass, for everyone that doesn't know you, I don't know how they wouldn't, but could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Bazzel Baz, founder and CEO of the Association for the Recovery of Children.
So, is there any meaningful change in either of y'all's work from the revelations over the last, again, and for all future listeners, it's February 6th, 2024, over the last 6 weeks or so, or is this just sort of a nod? Yeah, we know it's real. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Or is there any change in awareness? Is there any change in people asking questions? Is there any, if there could be, has there been any positive effect in terms of more people paying attention to this? Whoever
But
wants to take
Kristi,
it.
go right ahead, please. I'll follow.
um, I think the short answer is no. There on our side, we've not seen an uptick in people caring, people responding, people digging into this issue a little bit deeper, because I think the reality is people aren't surprised.
Mm,
These things have been in headlines for years and years and years, and it has a blip on the CNN or Fox News homepage for a second. People see it, they go, huh, another corrupt politician or another corrupt actress or actor or judge or whatever it may be. And they go, huh, yep. And I think people have become numb to it. And so, as much as there's the sensationalism of everybody wanted to see the list and know who was on it, I maybe it's my jaded perspective, but I didn't sense that it was coming out of a place of pursuit of justice.
mm,
It was the pursuit of sensationalism and what's the next person that's going to be drugged through the mud with no justice at the end of that, for those who have been impacted, and for those who are the perpetrators. And so, this is, to your point, this is why we do what we do. This is
mm,
why we work to advance legislation to strengthen criminal penalties for traffickers and buyers. This is why we make sure that even when there's not justice for the survivors, that there's healing, and that they are able to find the restorative care that they need through safe housing. This is why when the world turns a blind eye to those who are perpetrating evil, we can still train and equip common citizens on how to spot, report, and prevent trafficking. So it's why we do what we do, is because when those news headlines pop up and go away, those who are impacted are still there. And we have
mm.
to keep digging in and doing the work day in, day out.
That's a it's a very good point that I guess I'm guilty of. Yeah. Epstein client list, who is on there? It's like, what about the victim list? That has never once crossed my mind. Admittedly, that has never once crossed my mind. It's been, who was there? you're right. It's a different flavor of, but still the same of just hashtag this. Did you see this? It's the new. This is happening. Did you know they were there? And it's like, yeah, but what about the kid? And yeah, that's and like a true egotistical ass. I thought I was better than the masses, but now I'm just now realizing that yeah, I was distracted by the same shiny thing as I guess the next person. Baz, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, very much in line with what Chrissy's talking about. You know, we live in a society now where if we discover something, we think something's automatically being done about it. Like
Mm,
we discovered it. It kind of goes all the way back to the when it comes to children, and it goes back to the kid's picture on the milk carton. We've talked
Mm,
about this before. You know, a missing child. We look at the milk carton, we see the picture, we think we're doing something about it, and we feel good because we looked at the picture.
mm,
And all week long we feel good because we keep looking at the picture. And at the end of the week, the milk carton gets thrown in the garbage. Did we really do anything to go save that kid? No, but we felt good about it, and we thought that something was being done about it. And we're getting at a point where American people are very frustrated with a broken judicial system, accountability, our federal government, quite honestly. And they're trying to figure out how they untie their hands and do what like organizations like what Christie's doing or what we're doing to bring justice or to save more kids or whatever it may be in the midst of people that either don't care or what happens is when it, you get a situation like the Epstein client list, if they can bury it long enough where two, three generations from now come along and it wasn't during their time, then they don't care. It's kind of like if I were to say, hey, guess what? I learned who killed Abraham Lincoln. Well, okay, we would learn that, but who would do anything about it?
mm,
Who would care? I mean, they go, well, it was before my time, and so in the at the highest levels, if you can stretch something out long enough, after a while it kind of goes away because the
mm,
people who remember it get older and they die and they fade away. So, if I outlive, if Donald Trump outlives Hillary Clinton, he'll continue to pursue that. But, her crimes or whatever it may be politically. But if there's nobody there to pursue it, then nothing gets done. So if you if you compare that with an over-sexualized society where you've got other organizations, and I always get in trouble when I say this, like the LGBTQXYZ that keeps pushing minor attracted persons, which is a pedophile,
mm,
and for that to be normalized, then you look at a society that basically overall says, well, it's okay to abuse children. It's okay to have sex with children. It's okay. And so what happens is people don't start paying attention to it when you say, wait a minute, Epstein trafficked children. Oh, okay. Oh, so what? Okay. So is it that we're trying to protect our children? Is it that we're trying to bring justice to those who abuse children? What's the mission here with all of that? I think it's all, to be honest with you. But we too, very much like Christie's organization, because of this, we push our legislative agenda for the death penalty for anybody that sexually exploits a child. Saw a great job with DeSantis and those guys doing it in Florida. I applaud them. I've been talking to attorney generals around the United States about following the same thing. There are some good congressmen that we speak to that are on board with all of this, but even they, during closed door sessions, will say, "You have no idea how corrupt it is up here on the Hill. You
mm,
have no idea how many pedophiles we have up here. You have no idea how broken the judicial system is." And I go, well, I do, because 96 of them, this last poll was 96% of the Americans aren't pleased with Congress. They're not pleased with what's happening in our country and its administration. So um, it is where we are, and we're not going to stop saving children. We're not going to stop looking for justice in one form or another. I will tell you, and again, I've had these conversations where they border on, the FBI probably knocking on my door, and I have good friends at the FBI because I have to be careful what I say. But think, based on my best assessments and my predictability studies, that eventually, in a broken judicial system like any other third world country, people will get so fed up that they'll start doling out justice themselves. They're not going to
Mhm.
wait for a pedophile to be or a predator in their neighborhood to be taken because he's just going to get out.
Mm.
You know, once he's brought before a court or whatever. So they're gonna start handing out their own justice. And when I talk to parents that have dealt with their children being abused or missing, and a parent says to me, "You know what? You touch my daughter, I'll kill you." I, I'm sympathetic towards that, to be honest with you. It's like, you know what? I'd love to be able to say, well, look, just let the courts handle it because, and it's like, and people are at this point, it's like, no, the courts aren't handling it. This guy raped my 4-year-old daughter. He got 7 years and he's out in 3. No, he needs to die. So this is kind of the angle. I think this is kind of not the angle, but this is kind of where we're kind of drifting in society right now. And I just sit back at the 14,000 foot level and go, let's see how this plays out. But this actually is a result of us not cleaning up our judicial system and not having accountability. You can't go blame the people for doing what they want to do to protect their kids and their family if you're not willing to fix a judicial system, particularly one where we see people in high levels of authority getting off on crimes that were committed and crimes that were committed against children. So, yeah.
Kristi.
Yes.
Could could you maybe touch on, because I don't think maybe it is, but in the past I think we've talked about, you know, what exactly child sex trafficking is, you know, how it goes on, kind of statistics, facts, and figures, as well as what can the average person do. But um, I don't recall us talking about before. So could you maybe fill me in on y'all's push for changes in legislation in terms of punishment? Could you maybe touch on that?
Yeah, I would say we are, and that is one that we're doing more behind the scenes, having those conversations. Because right now, what we have is a high reward, low penalty crime. There are 700-ish cases at the federal level that are being prosecuted for human trafficking. And that's really some of them that have been sitting there for 5 years. And so you think, based upon the data that we have, I'm still going to go off of an antiquated number, but 2017 DOJ issued a report estimating 300,000 American kids trafficked. Yes, they've rescinded the report because it's an illegal industry and it's hard to track, but it's a number that's still out there. So let's just hypothesize that that is a real number. We have 300,000 that are being trafficked. 1% are ever identified because we have a lack of victim identification training mandated across all of the states, and a lack of solid mechanisms for reporting, but that's a whole different issue. But let's just say we have 3,000 just minors that are identified every year. You do not have to prove force, fraud, or coercion in order for that to be tried as a trafficking case. If a child is being commercially sold through either prostitution or pornography, it is trafficking because, and again, in a court of law, you don't have to prove force, fraud, or coercion. That is 3,000 cases that should be pursued every year. Now, I understand our judicial system is overrun. We've got backlogs of court cases, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't change the fact that nothing is moving the needle. And in fact, we're going backwards in terms of the number of cases that are being presented federally every year. So we've got trafficking reports increasing and trafficking prosecutions going down. We are going the wrong direction.
Hmm. Bass.
Yeah, she's exactly right. So what we're seeing, when I had my discussions with some really close strategic partners with HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, they were so frustrated with the fact they couldn't get DAs to prosecute. They collect all this evidence, I mean, solid evidence, um, and they can't get anybody to prosecute. And the question is why, or there's too much leniency. If you have stiffer penalties, people think twice about before they commit the crime. We know that historically. We know that's the case with human beings. It's funny we're talking about this. I just had a source yesterday send me some information on a conversation, an email conversation between two attorneys, and the one attorney who was um, working on behalf of the pedophile, a known sex offender, pedophile, who excuse me, had gone to court, is bragging about how he knows that his client is a pedophile, how he raped the 9-year-old, and how he was so proud that he got him off. He was able to literally get him off of this crime, and he bragged about it. And I'm thinking, man, what am I going to do with this information that's been intercepted? You know, that he's admitting the guy's a pedophile. He's admitting the guy raped the 9-year-old, and he's bragging about how he was able to get the pedophile off. So there's something wrong with that. So it's a business, you know, and I don't think anybody should be proud about that, to be honest with you. Um, yeah, I don't know, you know, I don't know if we have all the answers for everything because it's changing forms so often in our country. For example, we're up against a one-sided media that wants to protect criminals. We see that a lot. We're up against money and corruption. We're up against globalists. We're up against other agendas instead of doing the right thing, which is protecting our children who are the future of this country. Um, you know, we never ask the questions like, okay, so we have an open border and children are coming through, which by the way, we can't even account for them as well. You know, things like Tara Rodas, who's a good friend, asking Congress, you know, where's the 86,000 children? We don't know where they are. Or the 9,000 that MBM transported all over America to their so-called sponsors who many aren't. Um, and we don't know about those kids, but nobody's asking the question, how many American kids are being taken south back into Mexico? Because the price of an American child on the black market is far greater than a child coming into the country. And no one's talking about that. You go, well, why is that? Well, one, they're generally healthy kids. And when it comes to organ harvesting, you want healthy organs. Kids that come from a third world country that are full of parasites and disease and whatever, don't bring as much, you know, don't bring as high of a price, so to speak. But that issue is not being addressed either. And we've got intel on that that gets covered up. So, you know, if Kristi's number is right, and she's correct, we don't know what those numbers really are. We have a pretty good idea. Um, but where are all those kids? Where are they being held for all the child pornography, for the labor trafficking, for the child sex slavery? Where is it? Are they in a billion basements across the country? Or why aren't we doing something about that to find them? So it is going backwards and it's getting worse, particularly, and not to segue into the open border situation, but that has not helped one bit, not one bit. I mean, children are a commodity now, and no different than the fent that's being brought in or the children that are being brought in or whatever. And of course, you know this. We were in the first operation on the ground in Chattanooga, Tennessee, when the night flights were bringing people in, kids illegally, and we watched them get put on buses and watched them taken to non-disclosed locations and just handed out. They weren't. There was no paperwork exchange. There was no reunification center. Where did all those kids go just for that operation? And yet, when we sent our report up to ICE, our response was the Biden administration is in charge of this. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. This administration right now is guilty of one of the largest child sex trafficking operations in the history of our nation, and they should be held accountable for it. But they own DOJ, and that's not going to happen. But they own the other three-letter agencies, and that's not going to happen. Segue and come full circle back to the Epstein thing or the Hunter Biden computer. What's going to be done about that? You know, we look. Why would you, if there's nothing to hide, why would you hide it? Which is what's happening with the Hunter Biden computer, with the Epstein case. I mean, if there's nothing to hide, then you should have full transparency. So it's not only just highly suspicious, but look, we weren't born yesterday. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's pretty much a duck. And we know that. And because they have so much power over so many things in the country, they now boldly spit in the face of the American public and say, we'll do what we want to do. We'll do what we want to do with those kids. We'll do what we want to do with the economy. We'll do what we want to do with the military. We'll do whatever we want to do. And that will continue until more organizations like Safe House Project or ARC or many of our strategic partners um, keep stepping up to the plate and taking their rightful place as we the people and saying, this is going to happen on our watch. We're not going to let it. It's not going to happen. And this will not, I'll tell you what, this will not be fought in a court of law. There are other ways to fight this, believe me. And our organizations are out there doing it. We're taking meetings with attorney generals at the state level who are saying, yeah, we'll bypass the federal government because they're not doing their job. And I think that for all those listeners out there, you need to focus back on your state a little bit more, states' rights. I got to tell you, I'm proud of Texas for what they're doing. I'm really proud of them. Sovereign state, states' rights, basically saying you're not going to use us for your a corrupt platform. And I think when it comes to what we're dealing with children, I don't know if the issue is waiting for the federal government to do anything because they're not doing a very good job at it. I think it's organizations, strategic partners at state level that are going to make a difference here in far as taking care of our children and stuff. And then very much like Kristi says, we're going backwards. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We are going backwards. We are going backwards. It is degrading exponentially. I mean, um, so I think when Kristi and I talk and other organizations talk about this, I think the public needs to know that we're looking for solutions. We're not just pointing out the problem. We're looking for solutions. How do we correct what should be corrected by the government, and it's not getting done? And so we're not going to shy away, and we're not going to be um, and we're going to be bold about what we do. It's like, you know what, lead, follow, or get the heck out of the way because we're going to do this. We're going to go save children. We're going to bring justice. We're going to look for bad people. We'll say this before I back off a little bit. We had this discussion recently with some other strategic partners. Kristi, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to get you on the phone, but everybody kind of agreed. And you know me, look, I'm a former CIA special operations guy, former Marine. I don't sugarcoat it. I just tell it like it is. And when God calls me home, I stand before him and nobody else. So I don't really give a rat's ass what people think about me when it comes to this issue. Um,
This is
when
why
bad things, what's that? What's that,
this
Kristen?
is why I love you.
And I know
There
this
you
is
go.
why my heart is swelling. I'm like, this is Baz. Yes, this is why sorry, keep going, Baz.
Yeah. Well, like, what are you going to do? Take my life? I've got eternal life, so I'm not worried about it. So yeah. Um, but when bad things start happening to bad people, we'll see things change.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go, "Oh, well, are you inciting violence?" No, not any more than our founding fathers did for this country to do the right thing. Do what it takes, and when bad things start happening to bad people, you'll see things change. But right now, nothing bad's happening to bad people. And we all know that. And that's why it gets them broken. And that's why kids are being abused. And, when we talk about the death penalty for child rape, I literally, and it's just mind boggling. We literally have people in this country that defend predators. They defend predators and they say, well, I think that's really a little harsh. Well, I don't know. For 31 years being in the trenches and seeing raped children, see what we see and experience what we see. And maybe it'll change your mind. Maybe it won't because you're just evil. But I can't think of anybody that wouldn't be on board with that law or a law to stop predators doing whatever you can to influence their decisions. Um, and if they're not on board with that, then it makes me wonder if they're not predators themselves or they're just downright evil. And that doesn't apply with a lot of other things in our nation. There are leniency, and there are always things that are questionable. But when the evidence is there that a perpetrator has raped a child, and that's all you need right there. Solid evidence, and not disputed, clear cut. And it's like, okay, guess what? And if particularly even when they say I did it, or the child says he or she did that to me, I think that's where we got to lay the hammer down, to be honest with you. If we don't, this will never stop.
And we're no better if you see the evidence, the clear cut evidence. And then you go, well, the second you start saying, well, it's you're on their side. You're you're
Yeah.
you're 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 just as guilty. Um, because because I got the timing incorrect. I know we have to wrap this up in a minute, so I want to kind of let Miss Wells get in the final thought, and if you could, just for the person that they for the person, the milk carton person, how can they how can they help, even if it for the person that has no time or they're lazy and they don't want to, but they can still do something? Is it donations? Is it taking the I'm on watch test? Is what is it?
Well, I'll say something to them, but it's not going to be what you want.
You can say whatever you want. I don't care.
If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
can't expect the world to change. We can't expect America to get better. We can't expect children to be identified, safe homes to be built, legislation to change while we all sit back and do nothing. And so I'm not going to answer how can we combat human trafficking all while sitting on our couch in a place of comfort.
Okay.
I mean, yes, if somebody would like to sit back in a place of comfort and can stroke a, $2 million check, Baz and I will go halfsies on it. Sure, those are the things that can be done. But the reality is, we have to get pissed off. We have to get so mad that we're willing to get uncomfortable to step into the things that nobody else is willing to step into. And until that happens, nothing is going to change. There's gosh, I can't remember the book, but it talks about the kind of the phases of change. Realizing that you have a problem. We'll use weight loss as an example. Realizing that you're overweight doesn't move you to change. Next step is embarrassment. Being embarrassed because of your weight doesn't move you to change. It's not until you become intolerant of the weight loss that now you're in a place that is going to move you to change. That which we tolerate is that which we give permission to exist. So things aren't going to change in America until we become intolerant of the fact that children are being tortured, that they are experiencing the worst of humanity. And we can't sit back and let it be a news headline that flashes across our screen, like the milk carton, that we go, oh, that's awful. And then we go about our day.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. That's what's been happening. And I think that's the reason we're going backwards, is because we've become a headline based world. People will be enraged over one thing one moment and completely forget about it the next, because it's the next headline and the next headline and the next headline. And so we have to, I gave a presentation a while back, and there was a gentleman sitting in the second row, and he was a cellmate with John McCain in Hanoi Hilton. And I got most of the way through my presentation, and he stood up and he said, well, Kristi, I just have to tell you, I am pissed off. Just big old Southern accent. and I was so happy, because it takes somebody being just good and pissed off to finally do something about it. So that's my response.
Yeah, too. And I'll tell you another thing, much of what Christy's saying, keep an eye on this. We recently had the movie Sound of Freedom that came out with OUR, Tim. And I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of criticism that's going on with all of that. Don't lose sight of the message that children are being trafficked, and more so in the United States, and have been. But right after that happened, I can't tell you the number of people, and I won't mention their names, they're A-list actors, who called up and said, hey, look, I'm wondering if you could talk to us about it. I want to do a movie about rescuing kids, blah, 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 blah. And so what's going to happen is, if they're not really well-founded documentaries, and now people are getting on board because, like, Sound of Freedom made whatever millions of dollars, and they want to make millions of dollars, and they want to be a hero. What's going to happen is it's going to become entertainment. People are going to be desensitized to the whole trafficking issue. And when they see it or they hear about it again, they'll remember the movie, or they'll remember 5 movies or whatever, but it's not reality, because it's called the entertainment industry. And that's what you're doing. You're entertaining people. Now, that's not a reflection on what Tim and those guys did. But what I'm saying is people jumped on board with that. And we're going to see more and more of that. And, we always tell people, like, and I've been courted by almost every studio in Hollywood to do stuff about ARC, and we just won't do it. Well, it's not our story to tell. It's the victim. It's their story. They want to tell their story. It's fine. We're not going to give away our trade craft. We're not out here. I didn't get into this to be famous. I got into this because God called us to do it. Um, and so much to what Kristi's saying too about people caring, um, they'll get desensitized to this as well. There are a couple of organizations out there that have done a solution. There's a great organization called America's Future that's spearheaded by General Mike Flynn. We know Mike, we know him really well. We know what his family went through, the whole lies. We know all that. But they have a small arm, an anti-trafficking division called Little Flowers that we got put on their advisory board. And what they decided through conversations, we decided that the only thing we could do to kind of even address what Kristi's talking about was get to the grassroots level. And so they're traveling all over America and just basically having 2 day seminars, which is a panel with like Tara Rodas is on there. Kristi could be on there herself. It basically telling those who are interested about the issue in their town, uh, and they can come and hear what's going on. And most of the time when we go in, most of the time we get people going, we don't have any trafficking here. And then I pull up the numbers through Nick Limbo from Shared Hope International. And he goes, well, let's see, we had 562 uh, ads, sex for sale last night in this city. And people's eyes are like, what? And I ask them, I go, how many of those could be kids, do you think? But literally, people are either don't want to look at it, they don't believe is happening. Quite honestly, and we know this, they have no idea what the AO looks like, the area of operation. They're not in the trenches. It's just up here. It's just a thing. It's the milk carton thing again. But they don't see the dirt behind it. So that word, and Kristi, I might have said this when I was in DC with you, that word trafficking is becoming so commonplace now that people don't even blink an eye
Mm.
when we mention it too often. Like on this, people will listen to this podcast and they'll go, oh, well, kind of like what Kristi's talking about. Oh, well, maybe it's not my problem, whatever. But let me tell you what it is. It is the 7-year-old girl chained to the floor in a closet, not fed for 3 or 4 days, but raped 15 times a day by both male and female predators here in America with cigarette burns all over her body and so much trauma and STDs that will last her a lifetime and her total loss of hope. And that's what it is. That's the true picture, whether it's male or female. And most people don't want to look at that because it's ugly. And it's traumatic even for them to hear that such a thing would take place. But we don't get a free hall pass because this is what God sees every day. So if God sees it every day, why should we not see it every day? And why should we not do something about it? Now I realize that there are people out there that aren't a part of Safe House Project or our organization and don't know what to do about it. But we encourage you, if it is on your heart to even know the little bit about it, learn what the AO is like. Learn what's really happening in the trenches. And maybe that fire that Kristi's talking about, getting pissed off, may be the thing that motivates you to say, what can I do? We've got so many veterans out there. I don't know, what do we have? 50 million out there, right? They could be doing something about this. 50 million veterans that need purpose and are skilled at what they do in their critical thinking methodology and everything. These people, 50 million, could be doing something about this. I mean, I had a guy the other day say, well, I thought you were retired. It's like, I'm not retired. I'm never going to retire. You don't retire from this stuff. Yeah, when God takes me away, I guess that's retirement. But in the meantime, if we still have breath and you really want to do one of the most honorable things in the world, then why wouldn't you go save children? Why wouldn't you? I can think of nothing. As many governments as we overthrew, as many medals that we might have gotten, as many awards we may have gotten. When it comes to doing the right thing, this is one of the right things to do in our nation. Because without us, all of us, these children have no hope. So the question for people like Kristi and I and you, Tommy, is can we live with ourselves? Can we sleep at night knowing that we did absolutely nothing? People of conscience can't. We're 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 consumed by it to the point that we realize that if we're not out there, we won't. And for us, it's the Gideon principle. And Chrissy, I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm going to speak for Art, and that is we don't care if anybody gets involved. We're going to be involved. And it's the Gideon principle. God cut down 3,000 to 300. And most of the time, if you look at the great things that have happened in the history of this nation, look at 3% of the colonists, only 3% were the ones that got the freedom that we have today, fighting against the British. Huh. So if the 3% is Kristi Wells and Bazzel Boz and Tommy Carrigan, then so be it. We don't need masses. So I always tell people, and I do get pissed off when I say this, if you're not going to get in the fight, then get the heck out of my way because you're just a problem. If you just want to let kids die, then go do something else. Be selfish. Go do something else. But don't get in my way and don't try to stop me. And don't try to tell me what I'm doing or what I'm not doing. I've been doing this 31 years. And much to what Kristi spoke to, kids are dying out there and they're being abused. And it is an event that we as a nation will pay for at the highest levels when we leave this earth. No different than all the children that we aborted, or that were murdered basically, because we have no value of life. And because we have no value of life with children, you can bet your bottom dollar that this government has no value of life for its American people. We're seeing that play itself out right now, with all these other things that are taking place. When you look at the border crisis, they call it a crisis. It is an invasion. And people aren't smart enough to realize that the globalists are pushing it, Chinese are pushing it, and children are being used as the smokescreen. But what's really taking place is you get 5.3 million illegal immigrants in this country that have no sense of nationalism. They're never going to salute the flag. They're not going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. They're never going to take American History 101. And what you're going to have is a nation that will no longer exist because there will be no sense of nationality here. And so in the throes of all of that, the cartel, MS-13, the globalists are making money off children while we're being distracted by all this other stuff. And when the nation does fall, it will have no sense of moral direction, and children will be even further abused. And the laws will change and become even more liberal and more lenient because whoever's driving the country from a socialist globalist level will do the same thing in America that they're doing all over the world with children, abusing them, trading them, whatever it may be. So it's a much bigger picture here. And when we look at children, we have to ask the question, why? Why? What part of the plan where does this fit in the plan of things? And most Americans don't want to get off their couch like Christy's talking about. They don't want to do anything. So I'll tell them this. You don't want to get off your couch, like she's saying? You don't want to get out there and do something about it? I hope you burn in hell. I know it's a bold statement, but I really do. The children are precious and they're innocent. It is better that a millstone be put around a man's neck and him thrown in the ocean and drowned than to ever harm one of these little ones. And so when people hear me say that, they go, wow, you sound like you're a little angry. It's called righteous anger. And I think that God has righteous anger. And there is absolutely positively no excuse for the children in this country to be abused. It should never happen. And yet it does.
And what you said is trafficking gets thrown around so much, and I've taken a page out of your book when I talk to friends about it during, other shows or something, is, if someone says trafficking, I'll just chime in and I'll say child rape. And they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, no, it's a penis, a hand, or a sex toy going into an orifice, a mouth, a vagina, or an asshole. That's what it is. So just little asterisk there. Yeah, trafficking. No, it is the forced intercourse of two disproportionately different sized human beings. Just remember that. That's Call it what it is. Trafficking's been whitewashed. It's not. It's child rape. It is a child crying and screaming and being raped to completion by an adult. Just a little asterisk. So, correct. Burn in hell. It's what it is. So, um, on a cheery note, uh, please go into the description. Please go to the links in the website. Please go take a test. Please go see what, even just learning about, what are the signs and things to look for, how to report it, how to, don't be surprised if it's in your area. Even just start snooping around just to figure out, well, have I seen this or have I seen that? At the bare minimum, do that because, as someone that has, as Kristi said, dealt with, weight loss and gain yo-yoing for the last 10 years, it's there's several stages, and then there's finally a stage where it it's like a splinter. You're like, I can't even like scroll through my phone. You're like, I have to go like change my entire refrigerator and go to the gym. Like this has become intolerable. It's what you tolerate is what will persist, bar none. So we can all watch this and say, yeah, go get him. That is awesome. If you do nothing, and I'm speaking to myself too, if you do nothing, you deserve to burn in hell with them. So, on that cheery note, Miss Wells, Mr. Basil Baz, thank you so much for coming on here. And Baz, your audio is just, I mean, on point. Just as an aside to a very heavy episode, your audio is, I mean, that's like top 1% crispness. I mean, I know you strive to excel in all things in life, but I mean, even the audio on your podcast is just A tier. So I don't know, maybe you're just a perfectionist.
No, we had to up our game after embarrassing myself the last 2 years on podcasts, with bad audio and everything. It was like, okay, I better change this a little bit. So I just, excuse me, I'm just following your example. Like Christy's got clear audio and a great picture, and you've got it. And, it was a little bit for me to get a mic and, get in a sound room and stuff. But thanks for that. It's not, I'm just learning from everybody else. That's all.
It
Yeah.
it's noticed. It's noticed. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on here, and we will obviously do another one and continue to talk about it. And as Baz has says before, no, we will not eradicate it. It will go on forever, but it doesn't mean you stop. No doctor thinks they're going to cure every single person. You never, it, but you do your best because it does matter to the people you do help. So, no, it won't ever be completed, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it every day, right? I make my bed every day. Every morning it's a mess. Just you still do it every day because it's just good. So got to keep fighting, got to keep doing it. And it's being presented to you for a reason. It wasn't an accident, God didn't just stumble you in here. Like, no, you survive, you are existing at a time when this thing is being presented to you. No different than seeing somebody get bullied in the hallway in high school and you finally got to raise your voice and, do something about it. It's being presented to you, and your actions echo eternally. So choose wisely. But with that, please go in the description, everybody. Miss Kristi Wells, Mr. Basil Baz, thank you so much for your time. And we will absolutely do it again. And God bless you guys. And thank you so much for everything you do.
Good. God bless you guys. Thanks, guys. Good to see you,
Thank you so
Chrissy.
much.
Thank you, Tommy.